Officer. Hi there.
Yeah, but I'm gonna have you sit in your car until I'm done. Okay?
No, I'm gonna observe.
Okay, yeah, you can do that.
You're out of Soap Lake. Why are you stopping somebody out here?
Because I got him in Soap Lake speeding. By the time I caught him, he was here. I'm gonna have you wait till it's your car until I'm done. Okay?
No, I'm gonna wait where I want to wait and observe you. But I'm gonna let you continue. I'm not interrupting you.
As long as you stay.
You're outside of your jurisdiction.
Right.
I think you better call a sheriff out here. So the issue we face here is the Soap Lake Police Department, who's notoriously non-accountable. They are just completely outside of jurisdiction. They're a mile from town. So they're outside of their town, and unless they're in fresh pursuit, and so he's saying, well, I caught him speeding, so I chased him out here. That's a stretch for sure. Okay. What's your name? I don't think I've met you before.
I'm Officer Gates.
Gates. Are you new?
I am new.
Okay. Why are you guys patrolling out here? I've seen this more than once, and it concerns me because you're outside of jurisdictional.
Right. I caught him in my jurisdiction. Okay?
Do you understand what fresh pursuit is?
Yes, I understand what fresh pursuit is.
Okay, can you describe it to me?
I'm not going to argue with you, Gavin.
This isn't an argument. It's me making sure you're upholding the law, which you're not, because you guys are out here pulling people over on a state highway.
So I'm out in my jurisdiction, and he comes speeding through my town. So by the time I catch up to him, we're here, okay?
So you suspected him of committing a crime?
He was speeding.
That's not a crime.
It's an RCW. It's something we can stop.
I think you guys should look at the fresh pursuit laws. Huh? And I'm not saying conclusively that you never have a reason to go outside of jurisdiction, but I consistently see you guys outside of jurisdiction.
Okay. Well, I'm
hang on. I consistently see you guys outside of jurisdiction, stopping people. This is not an area that you should be patrolling. You're supposed to be protecting and serving the people of Soap Lake, not out on the state highway stopping people. So I don't really understand why you would do that.
What I'm saying is I caught him speeding.
No, fresh pursuit.
Inside my jurisdiction.
No.
Which means
if you had hit your lights, this is why you're in violation of the law. If you had hit your lights in Soap Lake, he would have stopped. He wouldn't have driven out here. That would have been eluding, and then you would have just arrested him. So I know that didn't happen because you didn't just arrest him.
Well, obviously, I'm coming from a dead stop.
No. Fresh pursuit. You were not pursuing him. If you hit your lights, when did you hit your lights?
I had determined I was going to stop him here.
Determining is not. You weren't in pursuit at that point.
Gavin, I'm not going to argue.
This is not an argument. Okay. It's called the law. Okay.
Well, you know what? Talk to my chief about it.
I don't need to talk to your chief. Here's the way the laws work in Washington State.
If you want it to go up,
right,
you need to talk to my brass, okay?
No, I need to talk to you.
No,
it's you guys on the street that we're going to hold accountable. We the people. I talk to your brass too, believe me.
Okay.
And I have talked to him. I've talked to the sheriff. I've talked to the prosecutor.
If I'm in the wrong, you need to talk to my chief.
No.
And my chief will correct me.
Okay? No, that's not true.
And
but you swore an oath to uphold the laws. What I'm trying to say to you, and I'm not trying to pick a fight with you, I'm trying to say, honestly, you need to read the law. You're accountable. The individual, not your brass, is always accountable. I hold your brass accountable too, don't get me wrong. And I've contacted him, and I've called him and all kinds of stuff. But you as an officer are bound to uphold the Constitution, the laws of the state of Washington, the Constitution of the state of Washington, and even more importantly, moral law in terms of natural law and treating people with respect and honor.
There is a written agreement we have agreement with county, we have agreement with
No, I think I've asked county, and they said, no, what's your agreement with them? You actually have an agreement where they've requested that you come out and do patrols in their area.
But we can come in to their area.
What agreement? Describe this agreement to me.
It's a mutual aid agreement stuff.
Mutual aid agreement does.
But what I'm saying, Gavin, is that I'm catching him in my town. If I get
that's not fresh pursuit, officer. Well, it's not the law.
Well,
and what I'm saying is you need to follow the law.
We're going to agree to disagree.
No, we're not going to disagree. I'm explaining the law.
Well, I don't agree with you.
I'm filming right now, so I will pull the law up and we can talk about it. What I'm saying is you guys need to sit down. You need to review the law. Because here's the truth. I've heard of Officer Cox driving to other towns, and I've heard this from people where he'll go to Grand Coulee because he thinks it's fun and pull people over. Now, I didn't see him there. I did see you here, and I understand you are close to Soap Lake. But if I consistently keep seeing you guys outside of your jurisdiction, there's going to be a problem.
I didn't write him a ticket, Gavin.
Okay, and I appreciate that. That's cool.
I'm not big on writing tickets. I
like
education.
That. Okay. Well, I'm big on education too. We agree on that.
Okay.
All I'm saying is, and I'll sit down off the camera and have a discussion over with a cup of coffee. This about you. To me, it's all about accountability and liberty. And I haven't dealt with you a lot. I know I've dealt quite a bit with Soap Lake, and I've found a pattern of disrespect in the way Soap Lake is run in terms of their policing. People say, well, there's a war on cops, but there's not a war on cops. There's a war on liberty because we have so much lawless government going on. We need police that are actually turning that around, that are turning against the corruption in their government. I mean, I don't imagine you became a police officer just because you wanted to pull people over.
You got to look at it too this way. unfortunately, we're sworn to uphold Washington state law.
Hold on.
Or, well...
Okay, continue. I'll let you finish. Okay.
And laws.
Okay. But do you understand...
But what the issue that, like, I get what you're saying about there being so many laws.
Right.
Unfortunately, our hands are somewhat tied by the oath that we take initially. You know, it's not something that we're... trying to think of the exact words to phrase it.
I understand what you're saying.
But, I mean, some of this stuff needs to come down from, obviously, our...
I appreciate what you're saying. Here's something I want you to chew on, though, because I've run for Congress, I've studied the laws. I mean, I know a lot of this stuff. But there's three things. Law is, at its root, if you want to go back to the root of law, it's moral law. It's God-given rights. Then it comes to life, liberty, and property, and that's what an officer is supposed to be protecting, how within the boundaries of state law, underneath both the state and the federal constitutions. So oftentimes people will say, and I get this from officers, and it's really frustrating, they'll say, I'm just doing my job, or I took an oath to uphold the law, and it's used as an excuse. But you have to remember, and I'm not accusing you, but remember that in the Nuremberg trials after Nazi Germany, they were saying, "Oh, I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing my job."
Right.
And what was concluded was, no, everyone's accountable for what they do, but you're actually protected by the law. And this is the beauty of the Constitution. If let's take a Washington state law like I-594 or any gun restriction, let's say any gun law where you go out and they say, well, you arrest that person if he has XYZ gun. You're violating the Second Amendment by doing that. And so a principled officer needs to turn around and say, whoa, I'm not going to do that. The superior law that also complies with natural law is the United States and the Washington State Constitution. This law here, let's say I-594, that says you can't have, that's just my wife. She's just making sure I don't get into trouble here. She's watching now. But what I'm saying is, you say, well, we took an oath to uphold the Constitution and Washington state law. What I'm telling you is, you're not a liar by refusing to uphold a Washington state RCW, because if in any way it conflicts with the principles and the maxims of higher law, you're actually bound to not follow it, not to follow it. And what I want officers to start thinking and talking about is, when do we turn to our superiors, our legislators, our Congress, and say, no, that's not law. Here's morality, here's principles, here's liberty. That's what we're going to obey. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I get you completely.
In reality, your authority to uphold law in the large sense is the same as mine. If I see someone being accosted, I can intervene just like you can. You just have more equipment and you have training and all this kind of stuff. But your moral accountability to law is no different than mine. So isn't the system kind of manipulating the way police officers think too? You probably can't talk about that on duty. But anyways, I just wanted to...
That's an interesting thought.
You know, when you're a citizen, the citizen's going out standing up for justice and for law. It's no different than if you're a cop doing the same thing. Every time I stop my vehicle and get out of the car and approach, my life is at risk, just like you perceive it, and just like you deal with if you stop somebody who's robbing a convenience store, although perhaps robbing a convenience store isn't a fair comparison because it could be a more intense situation. What I'm saying is, if police uphold the law and citizens police, and everybody polices government, we're going to have a country of liberty and not of slavery, and that seems to be what we're ending up with. If you're going to be an honorable cop, you're going to be in for it in Soap Lake, and honestly, in a lot of this country right now, because police are expected to punish and enslave and harass and collect and extort more than they are to protect. And the truth is, I think police officers are going to have to start saying, well, if I'm here to uphold law, I'm going to have to start looking at the criminals that are giving me my marching orders, because very often we're getting to a point where they're becoming the criminals, not the citizens that are getting abused. But okay, anyways, I've gone on. Is there anything you want to add that I should think about?
No, I think you're good.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the candid conversation. Now, we could sit down and talk about, I believe it's Washington 10.93.070 that talks about the general authority of a police officer. What is fresh pursuit, all this stuff. The point is, I saw an officer outside of jurisdiction. I had reasonable suspicion to believe that officer was violating the law. Now, whether technically in this case he may have been all right is not really the issue so much as we should be looking out for our neighbor. We should be looking out to hold our government accountable at all times to the law so that liberty can be preserved. The idea that we would allow government to violate the law with abandon, like they're doing in America today, is absurd. The idea that it would be radical to consistently pursue justice and liberty and righteousness among our communities, among our government, is absurd. Of course we should do that. Of course, we should pull over and make sure that everything's in order when an officer's doing something suspicious. Of course, we should assert ourselves and start dealing with these bureaucratic terrorists who are calling themselves our masters. And with what is so often in police, little more than lackeys who serve their lawlessness. You see, if police are really doing their job, they're going to turn around and they're going to start arresting the criminals that we have in government. They're going to start arresting their fellow officers who are abusing people and hurting and killing and destroying and extorting. They're going to start stepping up. And if we all held our government accountable to liberty and to law, if we held ourselves accountable to values and morality and principle, if we had more accountability going on in this nation, in our government, in our communities, in our churches, our children wouldn't be living in a nation of slaves. We made this. We have to fix it. I'm out. There's my assistant filmer. All right.